Hey, welcome, Outlaw Pulling fans. Another thrilling edition of Outlawed Live. 2 weeks. 2 weeks and a day. 2 weeks from tomorrow to the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, Kentucky. Getting pumped up. Mike and I were just talking off camera here. How we're excited to go. And Mike's going to miss the four-wheel drive class Wednesday night. Door slammer Mike is going to miss the four-wheel drives at the Farm Machinery Show. Mike, how's it going?
Going great, Ron. And yeah, that is what it is. That's like, I can't think of a good analogy, but I've been very open and very vocal, very outspoken that, announcers aren't supposed to have a favorite class, but I love the modified four-wheel drives. Last week, I told the world how I think Wednesday is the single best session in pulling. And I'm not going to get there until Thursday, but I will be watching from home. And of course, I wanted to reach out to each and every outlaw puller that's pulling on Wednesday night. And if I don't get a chance to talk to you before then, best of luck on my behalf, and I'll be cheering for you. But we had some very important and some very unavoidable engagements pop up on Wednesday. So I am going to tend to that. And then we're going to be, loaded for bear, full head of steam, headed east first thing Thursday morning to cheer on all the Outlaws Thursday through Saturday. But yeah, Ron's putting it right where, Mike's going to miss the modified four-wheeler. So Ron, you've got to be loud enough for both of us then.
Yeah. I'm not going to miss the trucks. I'm not going to miss a session. Let's put it that way. I'm going to go to all of it. Sometimes I miss a lot of that Saturday day session, try to make that day session. But pretty excited, pretty pumped to go. We're going to talk to Gary Behrendt tonight, Limited Pro Stock puller with the Outlaws. I ran into Gary Saturday night in Nebraska at the Nebraska Fairs Convention. I'm leaving my booth and heading to my room, and Gary Behrendt walks in the front door. So I chatted with him. He was going to a birthday party, him and Angie, and twisted his arm a little bit to get him on the show here. He said, thanks for all of the confidence and everything we put in him last week when we were making our picks, Mike. We may have to review those a little bit tonight, too, if we have time. You have the official scorecard there, correct?
Got each of our picks lined out, ready to go. And, Gary, I just want to go ahead and say no such thing as an announcer's jinx. So if we're picking you to win, and we're not on the microphone, Ron, so, no announcer's jinx there. So,
no jinx. No jinx.
Full confidence is all we're feeling with that. Saturday night, there must have been something in the air. You bumped into Gary, and I had pullers and pulling people calling me left and right. And I got the green light to go ahead and go public with a little bit of the scuttlebutt and a little bit of the rumor mill that I had kind of teased a little bit last week. So one of the pullers called me and he said, you know what? Yeah. He goes, everybody knows anyway, go ahead and tell them. So the class that I wouldn't even tell you what class it was in, but in the light super stock ag division, Kurt Paulson is coming out, two guns, fully cocked, ready to rock and roll, and he is just loaded for bear, giving it everything he's got in the 2026 season. He's doubled down. He's got a whole new frame under his tractor, a whole new turbo setup. He said he's going to have the identical underneath the tractor setup, basically, that Schluters as well as Jeremy Paulson are running with their machine. He's sending it down to Doug Roberts, getting a whole new frame put under it. And then, Ron, as you already knew, he did acquire the old Hoffman turbocharger setup. And he sent me some pictures, and that 4010 of his is going to have some bumps in the sheet metal, getting all that where it needs to be. So Kurt Paulson has said, I got a taste of it in 2025. The crazy horse was right on the edge, and I am coming in 110% in 2026. Watch out, boys. That thing's going to light.
Yeah, I just actually talked to Doug Baird here a few hours ago, talking about the pull there in Mobile. Of course, Doug helps on that tractor with Kurt Paulson. But, that's pretty cool. What else? What other rumors did you?
That's all. I got the other rumor may or may not have been what you went public with, where we're going to see a modified kind of shifting classes and kind of shifting its setup out there as well. A lot of fun stuff going on right now because the pullers, they're getting ready for 2026. The farm show's right around the corner. I saw a couple of our guys got voted into the final round of the voting for the Puller Championship. they released that list last night. So good luck to all our pullers doing that as well. So a lot to chew on right now, a lot of behind the scenes things, and pulling not so far away, Ron.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Technically, for all intents and purposes, we go to the Farm Machinery Show. But yeah, I just did the Nebraska convention over the weekend and picked up one new pull out of that. I've talked to some different pulls where we haven't been in a while, some pulls where we've never been, as far as I know. Some new stuff in Kansas, maybe some new stuff in Illinois. So pretty cool. I mean, right now we're potentially maybe in Illinois 4 times this upcoming summer. So pretty cool stuff happening here. And also some things where we not going to let the cat out of the bag on any of that just yet. So that schedule is still fluid. Hoping to get something out sometime around the farm show here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a little more concrete, a little more tangible here, if you will, Mike, the schedule. So thanks everybody for watching tonight. Russ Dostal, he's wanting to know what new vehicles or pullers will there be in 2026. I think you're going to see a lot more of Brad Myrodi this next summer.
Oh, good.
With his modified and his 2-wheel drive. I think we're going to see him out running a full schedule. Any new stuff in Missouri? Let's see. Possibly. Working on something in Missouri right now. So hopefully we can report on that in a couple of weeks. If not before the farm show, to be the show right after the farm show. Of course, we're going to invite Dan Mayer and Miles from the farm show to come on as we do traditionally here the last few years on Outlawed Live. Jeremy Tyndall checking in. Thanks everybody for watching. We've got Gary waiting in the wings here. I told him 7:20, but it looks like Gary, if you're ready, just nod your head yes. If you're out of makeup already. All right, he's ready.
He's grinning and ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's go ahead and bring him on. Limited Pro Stock puller, driver of the high stakes horsepower, Gary Behrendt at Ravenna, Nebraska. Gary, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
So what's your weather like up there in Nebraska today? Is it cold?
Oh, it ain't. It's pretty nice today. So.
Pretty nice. Yeah, I was there over the weekend. A little bit of snow, a lot of cold up there. But was crazy running into you there Saturday, Gary. I was like, is that Gary walking in? And
what are the odds of that, right?
Party. What's that?
What are the odds of that, right?
So it was nice to run into you guys, and I got you cornered to come on the show here. So I kind of apologize for that. But what do you got cooking for the Farm Machinery Show, Gary?
Well, I guess we're just kind of getting things, planned, put together, and trying to figure out when we're going to leave. And I had a friend once ride along, said to find our ticket today for him. So yeah. Kind of doing the planning stages.
So how many folks are you taking with you?
There'll be me, Angie, my son Cole, and 2 other friends. So
okay, is Cole the head wrench? Is he the crew chief?
No, he's the ramrod around the home.
he's the ramrodder. Okay. Now I know I asked you this question the other night, and you said you got to get through Louisville first. So what's your plans for 2026? I know the turbo change rule and everything. I've heard some rumors you're possibly going to pull some NTPA stuff. Just curious what your plans are for 2026.
Well, honestly, don't have nothing set in stone right now. Don't, like I said, I just want to see how things go at Louisville, and there's where the 4-1s are with the NTPA on the Grand National. I'd like to try to hit Bowling Green.
Sure.
I've always wanted to go there, just to watch and and this, the pits I hear is quite an experience. So why not take the tractor? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to go as a fan and if you're going to experience it, you're one little leap away from saying, well, I got one of those. We might as well just make the whole deal of it. Ron, have you been to Bowling Green before? You're kind of an Ohio-ish kind of guy.
Not. I know, as crazy as that sounds, I have not. I grew up in Ohio, and as a kid, Bowling Green was pretty wild, had a reputation. I think they called it the Hill, where a lot of the wild stuff took place. And so I know I went to a lot of pools alone and with friends and things, but yeah, it was pretty wild there for a young man to go to if you got in the wrong area there. Of course, Gary's not going to be anywhere like that if he goes to Bowling Green.
Well, even if he sits on the south side, which the one time I went, they've got the south side and the north side, and the south side is supposed to be the tame side. Well, you can still have plenty of fun on the south side. I can promise you that. So depending on how you look at it, there's no safe spot or no boring spot while you're out there. We'll miss you from Wisner. But of course, we recognize your need to check other stuff out. I want to know, speaking of going east, going to these big pulls, Louisville, how many trips have you made pulling at the farm show now? This will be you've been a lot here recently. How many trips overall have you been pulling at Freedom Hall?
That's just my third time.
So is that each of the past 3 years? Did you go last year?
No. Nope. Didn't make
2 years ago. Okay.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And then the first year, what was 21, 22? 22. Yep.
Well, what's your biggest takeaway from the farm show, Gary? Different from other pulls. What did you bring home from that you remember the farm show by?
Well, pick your lowest gear. That's yeah, it's went for many years. My cousin Bill Behrendt, he always drug us along ever since high school or right out of high school, and been down there many times as a fan. But when you're standing on the track for the opening ceremonies, it's when you never thought you'd ever be there in your life, it's quite an experience. It's like I said, there's just, the older we get, there's kind of bucket list things you want to kind of check off. And, that's definitely been one of them. And, it's just great people, met a lot of friends. Just can't say enough good about that event. So.
What other experiences in your time pulling would you compare it to? Would you say that going down there on the track for the driver interview just to hear that you're pulling at Freedom Hall, is that the crown jewel, or what are some other feathers in your cap or big highlights of your career, as you've pulled so far?
Oh, all the pulls are fun and good. And, Wisner's been, Rock Valley, usually you don't do very good at your hometown pull, but a couple years ago I did win the overall there, so I mean, just a lot of different memories, but just like we've always said, the Outlaws are just a family, and the connections, and that's priceless. Tractor pulling's just the excuse to meet all these people and hang out, and it's that's just a great experience.
Scott Miller is he messaged here, said make sure you're in the top 25 in the NTPA Grand National points to get into Bowling Green. Gary, I don't know how many 4-1s have signed up for the NTPA this year. Do you?
I have no idea.
Run Grand National?
Yeah, I did see this. You do have to have a Grand National license, and then they are cutting it at 25. You have to be standing in the top 25 in points. I wondered at what point something like that was going to happen when you look at Bowling Green. And Ron and I, we've debated this so many times, where you've got, the super farms aren't pulling there this year, but they had something like 62 super farms. They've had upwards of 70 two-wheel drive trucks. And you just kind of knew at one point eventually they're just going to say, here's where we have to limit it. So I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Gary, I know Gary, if you follow the points, I'm sure Gary's going to get in that top 25.
Yeah.
That's a great running tractor. I know, Mike, what was the score last week of people that picked high stakes horsepower to win it?
Well, you know what I realized, and I'm like a student who's doing his homework in class, praying that the teacher won't call on him. And I realized halfway through keeping score that's what you meant. I was counting Ron's picks and Mike's picks. So here's what Ron's predictions are. Here's what Mike's predictions are. And then you said, are you keeping score? And I kind of just shook my head and was kind of like the kid in the back of the class. So how many total people voted for Gary as opposed to voting for others? Should have raised my hand and said, teacher, I misunderstood the instructions. But, teachers make the worst students. So it is what it is. I know two people that voted for Gary Behrendt to walk away victorious, because I have it written down right here. Ron, see, you got Ron's picks and Mike's picks. So we picked him.
Well, I think you guys need to do a little more research, because there's a lot of good stuff there, boys. Especially, I don't know. Friday night ain't no easy walk either, but Thursday sure looks like a really tough crowd. So
who are some of the heavy hitters you're pulling against?
I don't know.
Who are the ones with the bullseyes that you've kind of got picked and say, well, if I'm up there with them or if I get around them, who are some of the heavy hitters that pull the same night you do?
Oh, well, Dean, Holicky. I mean, that guy can read a track, and he's good, solid equipment. And I don't know, the list. I mean, it's all tough, but everybody's, you're not no slacker if you made it, but it just, I'm sure everybody else looks and thinks the same way I am, but you're like, God, I don't know how many of them I can even beat, but you got to have a little luck. You got to just just be on your A game and hope everything just works out. That's all. So,
Gary, now running the 4-1 class, this will be your third trip to the Farm Machinery Show. You're talking about potentially going to Bowling Green, Ohio, this summer. I mean, where do you go if you get all that accomplished? Where do you go from there? Are you content in the limited pro stock class, or do you aspire to move up, maybe to pro stock or something like that?
It'd always be fun to run a pro stock. I don't know. Maybe it's time for me to start growing up too.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. We like watching you pull, Gary.
Well, like I said, it's been a lot of fun memories, but we're getting a lot of grandkids that, they're pretty, getting pretty special, and we like to spend a lot of time with them too. So.
Now, will they be watching you on the live stream then at home?
Oh yeah. Yep.
How long have you had the high stakes horsepower? If you just want to go, you tell me how long you've been pulling, but you can also tell me how long have you kind of been with this iteration of your career pulling? How long has that been going on?
Oh, I think I acquired it in like 17, 16 or I think it's 17. It was actually Scott Holtru's tractor. And ended up with I had a 1066. That time was 466 Limited Pro, and I went with Dave Mice quite a bit with the whole shot, and we ran back to Gene Sharborough's, or that's where he was, getting work done, and then when Brent came, and so Brent was going to build me a new motor for that tractor, or that International at that time, and then when Brent was actually trying to get me to buy the color of money from him, and I'm like, "You do not need that." But then Scott ended up, trading his super farm for that, and then I decided to trade my International for Scott's, and we took from super farm. Brent took it from super farm up to the Limited Pro at that time. We didn't do much work to it just because, it was quite a jump for me at that time. So we were in the first year just kind of getting used to it. And, I think we only had like 1,900 horse when I first got it. So
Ron says, what class are you going to next? Here's what I'm curious about. if Scott called you up and he said, "Hey, come over to the light super stocks with me," would you leave the diesel, and would you ever be tempted to go pull a multi-charger alky burner, or are you going to be a single charger smoke blower no matter what?
Oh, I'd probably drive anything, but somebody's going to have to flip the bills and do the work, because I
maintain it.
I don't know that everything about a diesel, and I sure as hell don't know nothing about a spark plug.
Well, Gary, I mean, your life has changed a little bit the last few years. You gotten involved with Organics. I mean, can you walk us through that a little bit? How Organics has kind of changed your life a little bit?
Yeah, well, Todd run in with Todd Bulls, and that summer, and was it 2 years? It was a little over 2 years ago or whatever, and then I talked to a couple guys that had used it, and they said, yeah, I don't know why, but it works. And so I tried it a couple of years ago, and I decided I tried it in the fall, and I seen things it was doing, and I want to go all in, and I became a lead generator, is what my title is, and we have totally committed. We've put up a cold storage for Nebraska. We're going to be distributing and storing and doing that part of it. So okay. It's an awesome product. I can't say how important it is to the farmers with the economy the way it is. I'm definitely going to be cutting back a lot of fertilizer and just we've seen how much it's improved our soil health and just making it financially, trying to make things flow out a little. So I guess in that respect, can't say enough about Organics as a sponsor for the Outlaw, and if it wasn't for tractor pulling, I wouldn't have got acquainted with Organics. So it's just been a great circle, having the Outlaws, Organics, just been a blessing to our farm and family. So,
yeah, I know. How long have you been farming now, Gary?
Since I ran my first ground. My uncle ran to me in 1981.
1981, and you've probably seen products come and go. I mean, but Organics is different, right? I mean, the bugs in a jug, snake oil salesman. I mean, over the years, you've probably seen a lot of salesmen come and go, right?
Yeah, and I've tried a lot of them, and you'll see a little response maybe out of one or two. The next 5 you try, you don't see nothing, But this one is truly makes a believer out of you, and
the real deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
So saying that, we're looking to slow down a little bit. Just I don't think I can be gone every weekend. We gotta kind of take care of business, because it's really taken off, and
sure.
Got to take care of customers too. So
I hear you. Jared Johansson, you know that guy from Iowa?
You bet.
Yeah. You ever drink beer with him, Gary?
Oh, I can't keep up with him, but I like drinking beer with him.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, he's watching tonight. Jason Schultz watching, says Mike with the mic, and Ron Jones, a little inside joke there. But Gary, throughout your career, I mean, anybody you want to thank? Any sponsors, family members, anybody that helps you?
Well, right now, without my wife Angie, nothing's possible. But Joe Bush and that whole crew there, they've just been over. They make things happen for me, and build me a good running motor. It's and when it breaks, if you're running for points, they're going to get you back on the track. And I've had there's a lot of good people through time. I mean, Steve Cavan's helped me in the past. I mean, tire guy, Taylor, different people on tires. Still good friends with Brent Payne, just local people, local friends, any of the pullers, I can name from Missouri to, I remember, breaking a injector line at Wisner and trying to scramble to find one, and Ruth come over and brought me one and didn't want a dime for it, and I think I ended up winning overall that year. So just special. George Byer's been, anytime I got an issue and George has been around, he bends over backwards to help me out. And really appreciate that. Miss George, haven't seen him for a little while, but
yeah, when you get his butt back out to the track.
All of us, just like everybody, you hang out, but the 4-1s, Jamie, Craig Yonke, Novak, Seth, all them, Paddock's been, everybody, just the whole class, just super. But you can ask anybody in any class, they're all going to say the same thing. So
yeah, good deal. Well, Gary, we're going to be pulling for you. Mike and I both will be there, and we'll be cheering you on. We picked you to win on was it Thursday night? Is that when you hooked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't bet too much money on that. I don't want to have to take care of you guys the rest of the weekend.
No worries. Safe travels and good luck, Gary. Thanks for coming on the show tonight, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. And thanks to all the fans.
Thanks, Gary Behrendt.
Yep.
Ravenna, Nebraska. Man, that's cool. Joe Bush. You talk about Joe Bush. You got a lot of representation of Joe Bush. And I think, who was it we were talking to? Was that last week we were talking to?
Yeah, we were talking about the Joe Bush tractors, and I was going to ask Gary, there's a really good, Ron, here's a word for you, smattering, to get back into the into the swing of things from the summertime here. Yeah, but he's got a good smattering of tractors that are going to be, represented at his camp out there. But I am not well versed enough to remember all the ones that are his. There's Gary's tractor, there's the Fear the Deer tractor, or the No Fear Deer, whatever the moniker on that is. But he's got a good number of other ones, and kind of just put the proof in the pudding with that. So he's got a lot of them at the farm show. Yeah,
I was going to ask Gary if he ever called Joe Bush Ag late at night. We always joke that he's got that 24-hour hotline, and who was it? Joe Hansen. Somebody, I think it was Joe Hansen, that said, "Yeah, sure. He answers the phone late at night." So. Yeah, Joe Bush Ag, good representation.
Gary Johansson's another one. He's got the Joe Bush Ag Repair. He's got that camp going as well. So a lot of them going to be out at the farm show. Going to be at the farm show this year.
Robert Miner, to answer your question, I'm hearing that it will not be back in 2026. So I'm not sure what their plans are after 2026, but I know Jamie would love to come back. I don't think they're going to be able to get it together, of course. Anyway, all that explosion of Jamie's engine at Unionville in September 2025, a lot of damage, not only mechanically but cosmetically. I don't think there was a straight piece of sheet metal on that tractor after that explosion. So a lot of work to be done on that tractor, and maybe 2027. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. We'll see Jamie back out on the track.
Yeah, last I spoke with the family, and I can't remember if it was Craig I talked to or if it was Jamie herself or Harrison, but whoever I spoke to said it will be back. That's a period. The question mark is when. They said it don't even, we're not to that point yet, but they said it will come back. And then I kind of remember there being kind of a twinkle, and we're not saying what either. So it could come back as a 4-1, but you never know. I mean, there's bigger turbochargers, or there's always other things. So you don't know. But I do remember they were all they're a long ways from feeling like they're done with pulling.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far to say they're done, but I know I did hear rumors they might come back as a light limited pro 8500, but I think the last thing I heard was they just decided to kind of set the season out.
Yeah.
And just be spectators for 2026. So.
And it was interesting. My father and I had drinks with him at the Thunder by the River there in Wisner between sessions, and he told us then. He said it's tired. I remember that was his. He goes, the motor's tired. So it was, and we kind of talked to him later, and I think that was still kind of his same sentiment. Or I talked to him at Unionville, and he kind of said, I told you it was tired, or we knew that. So you never want to see something like that. But when you've been pulling as long as the Yonke family have, I mean, they know what's in it and they know what happens. So, but to your point, can't wait to see it back. Probably the prettiest 1066 in all of pulling, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and she has her fans out there too, cheering her on. It's can't wait to see them back out on the track. Of course, she's represented us in Louisville, Kentucky National Farm Machinery Show as well. Any questions out there? A lot of people watching tonight. We appreciate everybody watching. Sorry if you hear me sniffling a little bit. I got a little sinus thing going on. If you see me drop out here, Mike, that's me just pausing so I could sneeze. So.
I want to give a big shout out. You know, I talked to Tammy Morris before I got on the show here tonight. So not only a big shout out to the Morris family, but also all the families down in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, Oklahoma down there, Kentucky, whatever. Y'all don't get snow like that very often. So major snow down there. And I talked to some of them, and some of our pulling families down there said they had some trepidations about how they were going to get back on their feet in time to get to the farm show, just as fans and whatnot. So hope everyone's staying warm down there. South Missouri doesn't typically get a lot of snow, but boy, they got hit hard. Northern Arkansas did as well. So any Outlaw fans in our Outlaw country down there, hope you're keeping warm. You know, I heard that the phones were on the fritz and everything, so hope everything's going well down there.
Case Conover here watching, saying hi from Lytle, Texas. Case, a super fan of the show and the Outlaws. Speaking of bad weather, I was talking to Cameron Neves, spoke to him today and yesterday.
Sure.
And he said Sunday, they had 8 inches of snow on the ground in McAdoo, Texas, and it was 7 degrees in McAdoo, Texas on Sunday. So 8 inches, nothing to sneeze at, especially in Texas. So
I want to know how much snow was on the ground that same time in Minnow, South Dakota, where the Ulmer Mafia likes to go, or Larchwood, Iowa, where they like to go with their snowmobiles. You know, that's a big thing that Alan Ulmer and others like to go snowmobiling. And it would be interesting to know, was there more snow on the ground with one of our Texas pullers than one of our snowmobile racing South Dakota pullers? That would be an interesting first time right there.
Well, I will tell you, spending the weekend in Nebraska, in Kearney, Nebraska, we may have got an inch up there. So if that gives you an idea, of course, that's a little bit west of the area you're talking about. But yeah, interesting. But to only get, a dusting to an inch there, and they get 8 inches south of us in Texas, pretty crazy. Dale Bartell says they got 7 inches there in South Dakota where he lives. Dick Blankspore says more in Texas. Yep. No snow in Minnow, Russ says, last Saturday. So
I always give, Alan sends me these Snapchat photos all the time, left and right, of his snowmobile racing that he does up there. And every time I look out of his garage and it's dry dirt, and I always think, man, you seem like you're missing a very important ingredient up there for your. But then I saw a video that he posted from back in the early 2000s where they were drag racing on grass or something like that. So where there's a will, there's a way. That's a wild sport. There's a lot of pullers who also get in the snowmobiling business. You've got the Ulmers, and the Slaw family does it, and I think Jeff Hurt and his family do it. That must be what they do to fill their time in the winter. That's a wild thing that they're into out there.
We need to do that sometime, Mike. Go up there and go snowmobiling with them.
I think I would enjoy that. I really do. That's one I can put on at something I would be 100% into giving a go. That would be enjoyable.
I think they have those trips you can go on where they, have the lodges and stuff on the snowmobile trails and things like that. And that would be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool.
I think. Well, I know that when I was talking on the phone with Tammy, she said that her and Richard and had just went up there with the Bauer family in Wisconsin and done some of that. So, they like their snowmobiling here with the Outlaws. I think that would be fun. Mark says don't have an inch on the ground. So there you go. If we would have put a poll on Facebook and put Mark Ulmer's picture and Cameron Neves' picture and said vote where there's more snow, a lot of people would have been wrong.
Yeah, Ben Beller with a nice reminder there. Don't forget to vote for Outlaw Pullers for the Pullers Championship. A lot of good Outlaw machines made the cut. So, yeah, get on there and vote. TPC, the Pullers Championship, that's coming up in May. Tom said they got 8 inches in Richland, Missouri. Dale Bartel says 7 degrees. That's 7 degrees right now, Dale. But there was another question up here. Let's see. Mark Crowley, Southwest Minnesota. We have like an inch on the ground last month. Okay, that's pretty wild. Only an inch there. Somebody asked a question here. I wanted to go back to. So will there be other the 4-1 class pulling elsewhere this season because of the box turbo? Potentially, yes, Russ. I would say yes to that. I mean, there were people that wanted the box turbo. There were people that did not want it. So yeah, no perfect way to make that transition. Impossible to make all the right moves and please everybody all of the time, but we're trying our best here to preserve the class and preserve the sport as much as we possibly can. So,
Ron, do you remember what other sanctioning bodies, were there others that adopted the box turbo rules similar that we did? I think, wasn't it Western Series also adopted a box turbo? Was there
Western Series, Excalibur in Missouri, and more recently Missouri State tractor pullers adopted that box turbo rule as well.
So I'm going to try to flip that coin and be on both sides of the coin here. I think anytime you have a very divisive and challenging rule proposal like that, you are going to see people, like Ron's talking about, test the waters and do what they want to do. But it also might open the door then too for some of these MSTPA guys, Excalibur guys, who we only see from time to time to then be more accessible. So I don't, and I'm trying to be very optimistic. I don't anticipate that the numbers for the fans are going to drop a whole lot. I bet you're still going to see that, 10 would be great. If we see 8 to 12 consistently, I think that's a realistic number. And you don't know, you might see some new iron, which is always just a fun shuffling. I think it could go either way. I don't think should only be viewed, as well, it could be bad.
Yeah. I mean, numbers weren't we weren't hitting it out of the park with the 4-1 class last season. Early on in the season, as we kind of review, I know, some people said, well, you have so many hooks and everybody was broke. Well, I mean, early in the season, we had 9 tractors at Ravenna. Just going back here, looking at, let's say, try to find one. What didn't get rained out, Mike? We had, 8 tractors at Concord. Those aren't bad numbers. But we also had numbers like 5 and 6, at events that usually had twice as many.
Yeah.
And there was some broken equipment last year.
There was a perfect storm brewing to lead to low numbers in the limited pro stock class in 2025. I think Craig Yonke was very right when he said that a lot of motors were getting tired in a class that had been being pushed really hard on the horsepower side for a while. I also can't but wonder when some people, I think, might have looked at Farley falling very early in the season, and with the idea of potentially being able to win $50,000, there may have been that temptation to, well, let's make sure everything's right. Let's see if we're going to that. Let's kind of put that as somewhere we go. Oh, well, we missed a couple of points hooks getting ready for that, whether we went or didn't go. Now maybe let's just kind of regather and regroup. So I think some of the timing, I think some of the other enticements, I think some of the horsepower, the motor, and the breakage. We saw some catastrophic failures at the end of 2024 comparable to what we saw with Jamie's tractor. Hers was not the first tractor in that class to have that happen in one of these single charger classes. So, I think there were reasons that people decided to let this develop. It was a bit of a perfect storm. Because if you go back 2 or 3, 4, 5 years, you throw a rock in central Missouri and it hit a 4-1 tractor. I mean, there were 30 of them at every local pull that you'd go to. It seemed like that was the hottest class on the planet.
And not to rehash the argument, but also you always have to. I mean, to be a successful sport, we have to look at things through the spectator lens as well, and then. Look at, I think one thing that we looked at too was the fact that it was getting almost to where it could be almost as economical, if not more economical, to build a 5.0 Pro, and the 4.1 horsepower was getting up there, in that territory. And then then you're going to go with component rear end, and things like that. And next thing you know, you could be confused with a 5.0 Pro, and it's like you already have that class. So we need a little division, a gap between classes here. And I think this was a step in the right direction. And somebody said 2 months ago there was already a latest and greatest turbo on the shelf that makes more horsepower in the 4.1s. And then there will probably be a new one on the shelf by spring that makes more horsepower than the one that came out in the fall. So they get into this war for horsepower, buying the latest and greatest, and next thing you know, you're wearing guys out, wearing out their pocketbooks. And the latest and greatest turbos that we see, they don't usually last as long as a box turbo. And the box turbo also has a warranty on it. So I mean, there's always going to be arguments for, there's going to be arguments against. And we just saw there was more. It was more beneficial to go to a box than it was.
And conversely too, you can look at 2025 and say, well, where were all the 4.1s? A counter argument to that's a little related but a little not related would be, but look at all the 5.0 Pros, a class that we were really hoping to grow. We were, by the end of the season, it was 12 every night. I mean, that 5.0 Pro Stock class. And I do even think a lot of pullers were making that logical leap that you're talking about, Ron. If I can already go component rear end, and the only difference is 40 cubic inches and 0.9 of an inch on the turbo, just build a 5.0. And I think a lot of pullers, instead of building a built purpose 4.1, we're saying, well, let's just come out with a 5.0. This protects the class as the 4.1 to have their separate setup. It prevents the tire wars of the NASCAR days between your Firestone and your who else had the Goodyear and whatnot. It kind of prevents something like that from happening. So give this some time, give this a year or two, and I look for this class to bounce back.
Robert Miner about Scott Jensen and the fuel truck. Is that a question, or
I think you're just saying where's he at? What's going on? Will we see the American ethanol in 2020?
I thought I heard someone say he might be back out this year. I'm not sure. I'd love to see him back out. So where'd we see him at? Saw him somewhere. He wasn't pulling, but yeah, definitely love to see that truck back out. It seemed like it was really starting to make some good passes the last few times there.
Yeah.
And was nowhere to be found last year. So, Kevin, I don't have the numbers in Rock.
I'm getting ready to pull them up right now. Is he talking about the 4.1 class, I assume?
Yeah, that's where he's.
If we can still get to last year, which I think I can on the app right here, and so like limited pro stocks on Thursday night, there were at Rock Valley. Yeah, there were 8 of them.
He said Rockwell, but yeah.
Oh, Rockwell. Oh, that one. So you're looking at an NTPA pull. I just saw Rock and went to Rock Valley. So.
Yeah. I get it, Russ. I get it, but you got to look at all sides of the equation here. But yeah, we got to look at it from all angles.
Yeah, because what would prevent a puller? Let's say the Yankees are a great example. And if you're at a point where you're going to build back, I would think it would be such a temptation naturally just to say, well, let's just build back as a 5.0 Pro Stock. And if you continue to do that, I mean, everyone's just going to run them until they, if they go, they go. If they blow, they blow. And eventually every 4.1 is just going to leap up into the 5.0, which is awesome because I love the 5.0s. But you're also not protecting the class of 4.1. And like you said, Ron, it's about growing the class and growing the sport instead of just, melding it all into a unity. So I think it really helps protect that.
Last time I seen Jensen Trips in Wayne, I'm not sure what happened to him there. Cole.
Yeah, he was at Wayne in 24. And he was in
Wisner. He made a really good pass at Wisner.
23. That was in 23. He hooked at the State Fair and got it to light really well at the State Fair in 23, and then followed up and made a good pass in 23 at Wisner. And then he was at Wayne, but I don't really know that it got off the ground. But he was there in Wayne season before last.
can you change your setup for NFMS? Change your setup to what? To go to class jump or what? Marty, you have to meet the rules. Like, our super farms have to make some changes.
Yeah.
To match the rules they use at the farm machinery shows.
I assume he's saying, Ron, if we go to the box turbo, can they change that turbo out?
They can, obviously, yes.
Like if you were the Outlaw Points champ in 2026, and then you were applying for the 2027 National Farm Machinery Show, could you then take the box turbo off, put something else on? Yeah, just look at our mod guys. Our mod guys don't ever pull with the third engine with the 7,400 pound mods. I mean, yeah, no doubt about it. You're going to nab whatever you can to be as competitive as possible, even if it means going beyond what our rules constitute.
Yeah. And that's something that we've heard too, is we know the turbos are being ordered from Hartz, that some pullers will just keep 2 turbos in a trailer. They'll keep, they'll keep the open charger. They'll keep the box charger on hand so they can pull with Outlaw Western Series or Excalibur, Missouri State, or if they want to go pull Nebraska Bush in TPA Grand National, they can do that with the open chargers. So yes, so that is a possibility, Marty. Yes. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to change anything this year because he hasn't put the box on there yet. So
he can leave his neatest, sweetest, most completest that he's got on there right now or whatever. And I would almost imagine, so now, Ron, I'm going to go down another rabbit hole here. Let's say you're Gary Behrendt or any of these pullers, and you've pulled a full season on your machine. How many hooks did the 4-1s have with us this year? 20-ish?
Oh, geez. You know what? I am not sure. I'm not sure. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I could look it up, I guess.
Let's say that they pulled 20 times, and if it were you and you were going to the farm show, would you put a brand new sweet, sexy turbo on anyway? I wonder how many of them are almost doing that anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gary was doing that.
Yeah, not sure. Just depends, I guess, on how old the turbo is. Buy the latest and greatest without dynoing it. You can, but that's always a little bit of a risk too. The dyno is your friend.
Yeah. Remember when we had Alan Andrews on here a couple months ago, probably several months ago now, and he almost said, and I'm sure I'm taking this, I'm not going to quote him correctly, but he said more or less it's been the same setup for 7 years or something like that, and he just gets out there and wins points championships with it. So once you find the horsepower, which is like my favorite term in motorsports, I love it when pullers talk about finding more horsepower within their current setup. Hey, if it's not broke, literally and figuratively, don't fix it.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like we got we're at 25 hooks in limited pro stock right now, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 or 6 of those are regional hooks. So national series is no more than 19 or 20 hooks for limited pro stock for 2026. I know we were doing a poll over in Illinois. Sorry, I might get ready to sneeze here.
Yeah, I was getting ready to take over. I could see it loading.
Get building, yeah. And it's on a night, Cambridge, Illinois, and we're gonna run ITPA limited pro stocks. That'll be the standard open 4-1 charger. It won't be Outlaw points. It'll be ITPA points at that event. So that's what we don't have the contract in yet on that, but that's what we are looking to do. As I went to the Illinois convention a couple of weeks back and visited with the ITPA guys about that, and they're open that night. So most of the show will, I think, be Outlaw, and then 4-1s will most certainly be ITPA there in Cambridge, Illinois.
Yeah, good group over there with the ITPA guys in Illinois. I think anytime we can interact and work with them, they seem like they've got a lot of good stuff going on there.
Badger State allows component and aluminum blocks in the 4-1s, which have 2 have tried the aluminum. Limkey Block. So that's Badger State up in Wisconsin.
Yeah. The other 4-1 mecca, they always talk about Missouri and Wisconsin being the two real hotbeds for the limited pro stocks. I was actually kind of curious. I'm glad someone chimed in with a Badger State comment, because I would say that's the other place where you're going to see a lot of these really heavy hitting 4-1s come out of. So I was kind of curious what they were up to up there as well. So,
yep. Pullers Championship. Have you been watching the voting on that, Mike?
I have. I know it, especially today, a lot of pullers posted things up. I've actually I'll put it on our screen here because I thought we might want to talk about it. But I do have the Pullers Championship and who's in and able to be voted, and you can kind of take a look at some of the outlaws that are there and available right now. So they're down to the top 20 in each class. So speak of the devil, the limited pro stock tractors, and you can vote for up to 6 tractors to make it in. That does not mean you have to vote for 6. If you just want one guy here or whatever, you can vote for them. But right off the hand, you can see a lot of outlaws or people have pulled with the outlaws. With Ken and Sydney Summers have made the top 20 in the limited pro stock. The Davidson family, really great to see them pulling strong in the second half of the season with us. Of course, George Byer with the side piece, Roger Rui with the One Mean Farmer.
I'm interested there. You said Ken and Sydney Summers, they're converting that tractor to a 5.0 Pro. So I wonder if that one is.
And that's what happens. There's a lot of little bits that I've noticed, and this is just an observation. I've worked with the Pullers Championship over the past 2 years, but I'm far from being in the end of how all this works. But it does seem like there's always a potential for that. So they get voted in. Let's say they would get voted in. They would then have to affirm that, yes, we have a vehicle that's ready that meets these standards. And if not, it would go to the next vote getter. So you already know. And right there, that's kind of something we've been talking about, Ron. So the Summers family, the colorblind tractor, that is going to come back as a 5.0 Pro stock.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they're waiting on some parts, but I'm messaging him right now.
Yeah, because oftentimes, too, what they'll do, so what the curator does for the Pullers Championship, and if you're ever curious, if you're like, well, how many four-wheel drives are there in the country, or how many limited pro stocks, the Pullers Championship is a comprehensive list. It is as of the previous season. Here is every vehicle and every association that pulled in this class. And so he just pulls them off everybody's website, puts them on there. And then, there's not always that immediate knowledge on all of those. So that's something to take in consideration when you're voting for your limited pro stocks. And then, of course, this year they are running the 5.0 pro stocks, the Outlaw pro stocks. There's a lot of outlaw influence on the Pullers Championship this year with names like Taylor Van Beek, Gage Porter. I'm trying to see who else has pulled. Chuck Holsworth has pulled with us. Of course, Cody Yark is a staple with us. Jimmy Brackett, Chuck Schluter, Caden Weger, Kurt Koima, Rodney Davidson, Greg Jagger, and Kyle Pedley. So a whole slew of heavy-hitting outlaws in the 5.0 Pro Stock class that have made the top 20.
A slew as opposed to a smattering.
And I always go back and forth. You're the only person who's ever pointed this out to me, and it keeps me up at night because you asked me one time, and I don't remember if it was on air or back in the pits, and you said, Mike, you use these words. You said, which one is more? Is a slew more than a smattering? And I have no idea.
I would say so.
Yeah,
smattering is kind of like here and there. It's just
we got in a debate one time with the difference between tinkering and piddling as to which one meant you were working harder. And I learned that split the room in a hurry, too. So if you're tinkering or if you're piddling, when are you really seriously doing more with your time? So it's like a slew and a smattering. It means nondescript number.
Yeah, tinkering is and piddling are closer than slew and smattering, I think.
Okay.
But
hey,
anyway.
Pro stock tractors, Ron Stone, I guarantee you there's not a single outlaw that is in the list here because this is not.
Well, I don't know. Watch out for Mr. Sabatka, Doug Sabatka.
That's true. Well, I don't know if that tractor That's the real story we need to get to the bottom to, is what
We're going
he's
to have him on the show. When he gets back from Europe, we're going to get him on the show. He may be back by now. He's got to go take his tractor to Freedom Hall here in a couple of weeks. So
light super stocks. And see, Ron, here's another prime example, like Red, Brian Schromick. That tractor's for sale. So I don't know if they're campaigning it or not, but it has enough fans that people voted it in. Light super stocks. As far as individuals who pull with us full time, the Haugs pulled with us quite a bit last summer. Justin Hoffman right there, last one standing. He's going to be one of our guys, so go give him a vote. I've also seen Brian Bowles, Mike Novinger, Bobby Jones have all made appearances at places like Wisner and Rock Valley and some of the other big pulls. So a lot to be supported out there. Two-wheel drives, not as many outlaws as I anticipated. Richard Morris with the Buffalo's chips is in the top 20. The Timmermans have hooked with us from time to time, but are not, full-time points chasers. Donald Nelson with Whip It. And then the Little Whip, and this is important to remember too, because I looked at this and I said, well, why isn't Little Whip? Why wouldn't they vote for Little Whip? Well, Little Whip, I think, is an automatic bid because it was a points champion truck. So your points champions are already in. So Little Whip's already in. So we got to get Whip It in as well. On to four-wheel drive trucks. And have you had a chance to look at this list, Ron?
I have a lot of California guys.
This is a California invasion. You could have almost an exclusive California field with these four-wheelers out here.
Just a word of advice for those California guys. Get those drive lines tightened up. Get in there and make sure U-joints are good and bolts are tight, because tracks are a little different here. So some of the guys have come over and pulled at the Pullers Championship and pulled at Cowtown and such. But yeah, they're used to those tracks out there in California. They're a little sandy, a little looser than what they are here in the Midwest.
I was talking to it was the first year I went to the Pullers Championship, and the Code 3 pulling team, I think John Bohr, I think is his name, and he was changing out his entire gear ratios in the back of his truck, because he said everything I've got standard in here is way too tall. We gotta drop way down for this power track out here. But Outlaws in this one, I remember not making a huge dent.
I don't recall seeing any on there either.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, you see just one or two that pulls with us from time to time. Donnie Reeve did pull with us in Buckner 2 years ago. Of course, the Lewis family will hit about 3 or 4 hooks with us a year. Hagedorns have hit a hook with us from time to time. So vote your heart in that one. Super stock diesel trucks. We'll see if Kong, Cody and Xander Lee made the top 20 right there. So one of their potentially 3 trucks that they will have in 2026?
Yeah, I think from what I hear, they have the new Kong, and Xander drives Kong. Cody drives One Nation, and then his youngest son is going to drive one of the super stocks, I think, as well. So,
yeah.
Right now, the youngest son drives the farm truck, the 3.0.
Okay, so they still got the farm truck.
I think the farm truck is for sale, Mike. So if you want to go diesel pickup pulling, that's a pretty good one there.
I had a dream the other night that my wife green-lighted me buying it wasn't a diesel truck. We were between a 2.6 diesel truck and a 3200 Superfield tractor. And we decided to buy a 3200 Superfield tractor. And I woke up with all the confidence the next morning. And I was like, I can drive one. I said, that's it. That's the class I need. I need a 3200 Superfield. I can go pulling. So if you see one of those for sale, it's like Providence. It's a premonition. It's destined to happen.
You dreamt this the other night?
I did. How fun would that be? You ever dream about buying a pulling tractor? It's the best dream I've ever had.
You've got it bad, buddy. You've got it bad.
You're darn straight. I think it would be cool. It gave me confidence. I want to drive a 3200 Superfield now. That's modified mini rods, Ron. I don't think we've got any in these. We've got mini rods, but not these mini rods.
Ben, with a little reminder there for you, Mike. Just
let me see it.
Yeah.
You're a door slammer. That's true. Yeah. But I'm also a spark plug guy. So I'm way over my head here. I have no business being in any of this. So yeah, Yeah, this was
Your dreams go up in smoke.
leave it a dream. Yeah, they went up, and that's a book title, Ron. How about our Outlaw ITPA modified tractors, the most entertaining and hottest up and coming class in all of pulling out there? And I say just let all 20 of these guys pull, because this would be an awesome, awesome class just as it sits. Cameron Eves and Cotton Candy, Donald Nelson with the Bull Buster, Doug Voth with the Griffin Growl, River Rat with Wayne Longnecker. Of course, we know some information about that one. Sweet Pain, Craig and Ty Ulmer out there, as well as Twisted Whip and the Texas Bullwhip. Would really like to see Sweet Pain make it.
Mike, I heard today or yesterday that the Ulmers were going to the Mac Trailer Nationals there in the spring in Freedom Hall too. They're going to run 7,400 mod Outlaw rules there.
I didn't realize that the Mac Trailer was doing a tractor pull again at Freedom Hall.
Yeah, I may have let the cat out of the bag, but so be it.
That's you know what? We can break that news. That sounds. I did not know. Good for them. I think the world needs to see that tractor, even if one of two things is going to happen. It's going to go out there and it's not going to win, and people are going to see how beautiful it is, or it's going to win and they're going to say, "Holy moly! Look what a triple wedge motor can do out there." And I think
I was surprised by the news, Mike, because after the season they had, that Kurt and the crew up there are re-engineering that tractor from the ground up. They don't want a repeat of 2025 in 2026. So I expect to see some changes to that tractor this year.
I think it'll be. I want to see that one. I think the world needs to see that tractor as much as we, the Outlaws, get to see that tractor. It's worth pointing out, I did notice, so you got all these Donald Nelson tractors on here that are up to be voted for, as well as Trevor and Kevin Massetti's The Whip. Now, that is Donald Nelson's old Twisted Whip. So I thought it would be kind of neat if that one got voted in and pulled alongside all of Donald's current tractors. I thought that would be a fun scenario if you guys wanted to vote that way. And I believe that's our final class out there. So should be a good time. Some good Outlaw representatives. Really, the only class that we didn't make a huge dent was the 4-wheel drives, but our mods are going to dominate out there.
Alan Andrews, out of the top 20, how many do they take and how many per class?
So if you go back out to their website and you look at it, it will tell you at the top basically how many they need for each class. What they do, they send initial invites to it's either the top 2 or the top 3. I think it's the top 2 points finishers in each of the 3 major professional associations. Or if they have something like the ITPA rules, they'll send an invite to that. And then they will build their field based on how many of those initial invites said yes or said no, trying to build the overall pool to a predetermined number of, I don't remember what, 140 hooks, 120 hooks, or something like that. So it'll tell you how many that they need in each class, and you vote for that many.
Cool. Couple of comments here. Cool on all the Ulmers are the only Chevys in that class at TPC out of all the tractors.
Yeah.
Pretty proud of that. And of course, Zook Fukerberg and his evil twin, Doug Voth.
Yeah.
Good evening, gents. Been voting. Vote for the Griffin Growl there out of Texas. So interesting. The radial reactor I seen was on that.
Yes, I didn't highlight that one. Tell the world about that one, Ron.
Yeah,
that's a
big radial engine. I'm not sure what that engine is, if it's a Wasp or what it is, but it's a big radial, and you can see the chassis was designed specifically for that radial engine. So very unique tractor. I'd be curious. I'd love to get a look at that tractor. He pulls over in the eastern part of the United States on the East Coast.
He's from like North Carolina or something like that. And here to kind of tell you what Ron's talking about right here, because it is really, really kind of interesting. You can see he's got that frame of that chassis almost kind of like dipped down to hold this huge. Yep. And Ron, these radial motors, how many many cylinders is that, or how many cubic inches?
I think it depends on the engine. Like I said, I don't know what engine that is. I'm actually on some Facebook groups that have aircraft engines and stuff, and there was quite a few combinations of those radial engines. So I'm not sure how many cylinders that one is, to be honest with you.
And it's either
Doug would know.
And if it's not supercharged, it at least has the injector hat out front, making it look like it's blown. So it's way cool. Yeah, 3,350 cubic inch out of a B29, and the whole way those radial engines work are so different too, because they're not individual pistons. It's like a big triangular disc that floats around, and it intake and outtake all at the same time. It's really, really interesting.
Well, it's not a standard crankshaft in there. It's a little different inside. But 18 cylinders. That was going to be my next question for Doug. So Marty Samuelson going to be watching Farm Machinery Show at the golf course. So Vern didn't make the finals. Doggone it. So we want to see Vern get in there. I noticed that too. So, but it's time to go, Mikey. Let's go ahead and shut it down here. We have gone past 8:07 here. So want to thank everyone for watching. Mike, thank you tonight. Oh, he said it's also factory supercharged, so very important to know. So that's important for supercharged aircraft piston engines. Weren't designed specifically for power, but more for getting that thin air forced into the engine at high altitudes, just so they run. So power was just an added benefit that they got at lower altitudes. So anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Next week we'll be 1 week away from the National Farm Machinery Show. So thanks for watching. Be safe out there on those slick roads. Stay warm, and we'll see you next Tuesday night on Outlawed Live.
Wow. Check. Make sure Chuck's all right there. They're going to check Chuck out. Catastrophic engine damage. I think the top part of the motor. I believe he probably split the block in half right there. 234.53. Folks, give Chuck a round of applause. They said he's just fine, but the only thing hurting is his pocketbook right now. That is going to be an expensive fix.
45 and 86 right now. 345 and 86. Here we go with the Kentuckian.